Today, people, we are going Dutch. As in, we are going to be predicting and previewing this weekend's Dutch Grand Prix after weeks away. I will be honest with you, because you deserve it. It's felt very, very strange not coming up this ladder as frequently, but don't worry, we are heading back towards normal programming. And it has been quiet in terms of news, but I would expect that to change in the coming days, and one major tidbit that I thought I would bring up first and foremost is news related to American operations. And don't worry, I'm not going to be just going on the whole thing about Cadillac and Bottas and Perez that is most likely expected to be confirmed in the coming days, since more and more major news outlets are running with that story. But there's also something else coming out of America which really piqued my interest, courtesy of Speed Cafe. And it's to do with an IndyCar champion. The IndyCar champion. The Max Verstappen of IndyCar at the moment. One Alex Palou. Indeed, that has come about from a perusal from one of my go-to news sites. With Palou securing his 4th IndyCar title in recent weeks and getting his first Indy 500, the annual speculation as to what he will go on to do next has come around again. But this time around, it seems a little bit more curious. I mean, I have recalled this happening the last couple of years or so because, let's be real, as of now, Alex Palou is a very, very, very big fish in a rather somewhat small pond. No disrespect to IndyCar or anything, but he is on a bit of a tear at the moment. The only person who can seemingly come close to him is one Pato O'Ward, who would be very happy to see the back of him, so that means maybe he can at least get one title under his belt. But as we've seen time and time again, Alex has just swatted away the speculation, saying he would rather remain in the United States of America and continue to dominate because, well, he is dominating at the moment. But nevertheless, this is a rather interesting twist in the tale concerning the rivalry between Red Bull and McLaren, especially the Christian Horner-Zach Brown saga, the animosity between those two teams, and now Alex Palou could be lined up to be either partnering up with Max Verstappen or replacing Max Verstappen if he does choose to move on to another team, Max, or out of the sport altogether. Let's not forget, McLaren and Alex Palou, they've got stuff that's personal after Alex snubbed the McLaren Arrow project, staying instead with Chip Ganassi, and that court case is still coming. Apparently there's a trial meant to be coming around in October. There's nigh on $50 million riding on this, so hey, if Alex can get a nice juicy contract with McLaren's greatest enemy, oh, wouldn't that make the Netflix producers salivate, eh? Because there are American fans out there. I don't really need to hold on to the foam of doubt that tightly, because where Red Bull is right now, I think it could be an interesting project for Alex, because this might be something new, because he might want to win title after title after title, but I'm pretty sure, like with Max, it could get a little bit boring if he kept on doing that. Where's the challenge? And yes, of course, there have been denials on the record from both Alex and Chip Ganassi saying that there is a contract for 2026 with the American IndyCar team. But there is, of course, potentially an exit clause within that contract should Alex find something that's quite tantalizing, or if the offer's too good to refuse, saying that Red Bull pays Chip Ganassi a certain amount, then maybe Palou might become available after all. If not next year, then the year after that. In any case, I think it's safe to say that Palou is one of the most bankable drivers in North America right now. So him going over to Formula One, which is trying to get a really big presence in America, oh, yes. Your Liberty Media will want to salivate about that too. Especially since now he's got an Indy 500 and he's got 4 titles, and dominance at that level, that would survive translation across series because it hinges on tyre saving, traffic management, repeatable pace under caution churn. Yeah, some F1 elitists scoff at IndyCar, but champions of the former treat it with respect, and some even feel intimidation toward it. I don't really follow IndyCar closely. I do watch Indy 500 when it comes around, and if I'm watching Sky Sports F1 and an IndyCar race comes on, I do watch it with curiosity. But even I am perfectly aware that Alex Palou is a machine. I give it a nod of recognition because it is a very, very high-stakes competitive environment, and it does require a huge amount of skill. Palou might want to see maybe Formula One as a bit of a challenge, something that's a little bit of closure, because he was destined for Formula One within the European categories, but then moved over to America to maybe find some means of getting near the top. Well, he's pretty much at the top now, and why not give it a go? And yeah, it does feel weird not saying it in the Christian Horner impression, but it is very true, because what's the harm in doing that? If it doesn't work out, fine. He can always come back to IndyCar. Any team would be willing to have him. He could carry on well into his 40s. People like Helio Castroneves and Takuma Sato, they are still romping around taking a names well into their 40s. They are not losing pace whatsoever. So I am pretty sure that Palou could just take a punt, doesn't work out, just go back again. What's the harm? And couple that with moving over to Ford, who is really pushing in the North American market to get that bankable name to replace the likes of Max Verstappen, that wouldn't be a bad trade-off in that sense. And also, you've just got to look at top-tier single-seater champions and big-name stars moving over to F1 and also showing their own. Jacques Villeneuve, say what you will about his punditry, but come off it. He was doing that in 1996, his debut year, then wins the title the following year before falling off hard, and then Juan Pablo Montoya. If only Juan Pablo stuck around and just stomached one more year of Ron Dennis. 2007 could have been a title hunt. He might have been up against Lewis Hamilton. It could have been Montoya and Alonso. Imagine that. That would have been epic. But I'm just trying to prove a point here. Big stars within IndyCar and Champ Car can actually do a really good service for Formula One and hold their own. Which is why I think if Red Bull are looking for somebody in the post-Verstappen era, Alex Palou might be a decent shout, and one that probably doesn't cost too much and is something that might be quite marketable and would fill in the gap that is what would be Verstappen's hole. So I'm going to be slotting this news into the very interesting section. I'm going to be keeping an eye on this one because this is very, very juicy. And if you'd like me to detail this in a further report, maybe a video later this week alongside the court case, then do drop down a comment stating that. And maybe drop a like as well. And in other Formula One news, Lewis Hamilton has released a statement on his Instagram detailing about what he is expecting to do in the second half of the season. Another video I'm going to be working on that I probably might do for tomorrow are the drivers who really need to have a good second half, and Lewis is arguably one of them. But there are many question marks around Lewis. Is the 2026 campaign just going to be more of the same as this year? Worse? Better? Transformative even? Where we might just see the Lewis of old really gelling well with the new regulations? It's hard to say. And yes, Lewis has dropped it, and say what you will about the man, this does seem like it has come straight from the heart, and it's something he does wish to share. So here are his comments for your consideration, because I do find them intriguing. I've always so grateful for this time, for the opportunity to rest and recharge. There's a lot I've been meditating on. Every one of us is up against so much, both individually and globally. It is so important that we embrace the light of truth and love and take care of ourselves, so that we can better take care of others. We can't look away. We have to keep going, even when it's difficult. Now, I can understand some of you might be thinking, Lord, come off it. Why are you giving Lewis the air to breathe with this nonsense? Well, I was not too sure about it, but then I really dug a little bit deeper and been thinking about where Lewis has been, and I still reiterate all of the stuff I've been saying of recent times, where I do not see Lewis Hamilton giving up at the end of the season, and I do think he might be onto something at Ferrari. There is something in this, and I do think he's had some time to really reflect, and we might start to see more of Lewis getting either closer to Leclerc or working together with Leclerc to better change Ferrari, so that means neither of them feel the need to abandon them. It just felt like a really human way to say it. There were no hashtags there. There were no links to, oh, I can better get meditation with this product I'm making. Because his burger chain completely collapsed, but he now has that mezcal thing, I think. He's got that new drink. Oh, fair enough. Good luck to him on that one. But this time around, he was speaking from the heart, I imagine, and that is something I really wanted to pay attention to. He names private strain and global noise being issues, and these are issues I think we can all get behind given recent events. Tell the truth, choose love, do the work. That doesn't sound very cookie cutter to me, or PR related. Just using we all the time? He has maybe, I think, taken Ferrari on board, and it's a united front, despite headlines suggesting that there is division. I do think he wants to work things out between himself, Charles, and Ferrari. He doesn't want to leave Ferrari in a worse state than he was than when he arrived. He wants to play his part. He doesn't want to be an Alain Prost, where he just leaves the team in acrimonious terms. He wants to try and improve Ferrari, and I think it's only fair to give him the space to try and make this happen. But don't get me wrong, he has not had a fairy tale start to his tenure at Ferrari. You can't say that he has. He absolutely has not. Ferrari have dropped the ball in regards to where they were last year, and there are some kernels of truth cropping up every now and again that maybe the main motivation for Ferrari taking Lewis on was on the commercial side of things, but that is not on Hamilton himself. That is on the likes of Elkan and Vigna, the higher-ups, the corporate side of the car company wanted to make a quick buck on a jaded Lewis Hamilton who was really not having a good time at Mercedes. They were capitalizing on his misfortune there. Lewis had a boyhood dream here, and I feel really sorry for him. He should not be having this bad of a time because he has so much to give still. And no, I'm not glazing Lewis or anything like that. I just feel like he deserves to just have some say with Ferrari, try something new, refresh himself, and maybe this change, this summer break, has been the thing that he's needed, and what we've seen with this particular soliloquy on Instagram. You can also say that the bust-up that we expected between Leclerc and Hamilton has not happened. Maybe there has been some tension behind the scenes, but it hasn't really spilled over into the public in terms of major dramas on the radio or anything. We've had occasional flare-ups, but they've been quickly rectified. Oh, just saying, oh, this is a lot of nitpicky, and there's nothing wrong between challenges, nothing wrong. It's all been downplayed, and he's been getting better at that, Vasseur, especially with that brand new contract. There's a lot more confidence in his tone, which makes me think that maybe Charles and Lewis are working together because they both want to see Ferrari succeed, because Charles is Ferrari, and Lewis wants to be Ferrari. Them together, trying to G things up, change things, get rid of some old Italian traditions which simply do not work in Formula One anymore, open up the perspective that saw Ferrari succeed in the late 90s and early 2000s. Yeah, more of that. It's a narrative I'm really going to be paying attention to. And I also think that Team LH and the Lecfosi are starting to actually unify themselves, have one voice of sorts. I really didn't expect that, I must be honest. But okay, on to the track and racing itself. And I am so glad that we are back here. We're at Zandvoort for the penultimate time. Yeah, it's sad to see it go, but it is a pretty good track. And Pirelli are celebrating not only their 500th Grand Prix in participation, because they were around before 2011, but also they've decided to get a little bit soft. So we are not seeing the C1 tyre this time around. It's the C2, C3, C4. That could be very interesting. And maybe almost guarantee we are going to be having a two-stopper here. And, oh, did I mention there is a chance of rain, about 25% or so? And also, since it's right by the coast, there are going to be some coastal winds, which could really set some jeopardy in some of the corners nearer the sea. So, ooh, okay, that can throw some jeopardy in there as well. Okay, this will be a very, very good circuit to come back to after weeks and weeks of nothing. But I'm just happy not to see the C1 around, because I don't think anyone likes the C1 tyre. Even the drivers, I think, don't like it. Zandvoort is also a track that rewards track position more than most. We said Hungary was like Monaco without walls, right? I would argue that this is not all that different. Short straight, twisty rest of the track. Yeah. Even though it's got 2 DRS zones, I still stand by it. And I will be saying this a lot today, the pit lane is amongst the shortest of the year, which will be very important for all concerned, so do expect McLaren to thrive on combined high downforce load and traction to negate maybe any surprises from other teams pulling off an undercut. And also, it's going to be that little bit faster in the pit lane. They are upping the speed limit from 40 miles an hour to 50 miles an hour. That might not be much, but that could easily shave off a couple of seconds in the pit lane further still. So do remember that. As to who could be expected to score points, even though I think Ferrari may struggle to get in the top 5, it may be close, Leclerc should qualify close to it based on Hungary's pole pace, then maybe having to manage drop-off to bank points. Hamilton, likely to be in that same pocket if Ferrari nails its Saturday build. Then, Lewis and Charles relatively close to one another as he continues the Brit, his integration. Albon's had a quietly excellent year. He could convert again if strategy falls his way, especially if the race stretches to 3 stints, we get 3 stoppers. And also, I still think that this is a track which can give Williams a little bit of a nice surprise, because we all expected them to be terrible the last few years at this track, but they have surprised us all with getting into the points where we all thought they were going to be as dull as ditch water. I do think Hülkenberg could score a couple of points here. Bortoleto might get a shot of getting into Q2 again. I do think there are some surprises to be had with that Sauber still. And then maybe we could see Alonso being dangerous around here like he's been good in the past. There are some things from Aston Martin which makes me think they can get that a little bit closer to fighting for P5 in the Constructors again, getting it for the 3rd year in a row. Then, of course, you got Lawson, you got Tsunoda, you got Ocon, you got Sainz. They could maybe trouble the points-paying positions, between 9th and 13th or something like that. I do think that could be possible as well. And I am going to be keeping my eye on Liam Lawson here, because he did make his debut in Formula 1 at the Dutch Grand Prix replacing Ricciardo. He did not disgrace himself at all, especially since the conditions in 2023 were absolutely ghastly. So I'm going to be paying attention to this one. So this is the first time I think that he's actually been back to a track he's already raced at. But anyway, we are now here to predict the top 5 for the Dutch Grand Prix of 2025. And I am really thrilled to say to you for the first time in quite a while, here they are. So right out of the gate, Lando Norris is my pick to win. And there is plenty of clear evidence to suggest that he can bring the gap between he and Oscar Piastri to just 2. Not only from the fact that he won here last year, and quite emphatically so by over 20 seconds, and he's also got prior momentum. 3 wins in the last 4 Grand Prix. That is something you cannot deny. This is straight up definition textbook momentum. There is something about Lando Norris's form at the moment which is screaming to me top tier performance. He's certainly come on leaps and bounds since the first half of the season proper, and now I think he is in a position to bring this all the way to Abu Dhabi. And last year he had a clean sweep. He even got the fastest lap convincingly. There was just no stopping the guy. And that tells you a driver who can really keep his tyres under control, especially with the banked curves. He was having no trouble at all. Sure, the Pirelli tyres might be one step softer, but I really don't see him being curtailed in any way, shape or form, especially if McLaren continue to give him the best intel possible, because that's just how he likes to roll. There are other drivers out there who prefer to lean on their engineers more than most, or others, or Oscar Piastri. That's just the way Lando's cookie crumbles. And if things get really, really windy or particularly spicy, or if the chances of rain spike on Saturday, I do think the McLaren might remain the most balanced out of all of them. And couple the fact that this is a very short pit lane, it's actually going to be slightly faster, I do think that McLaren could easily get the jump on anyone else. So I do not expect any other team to be getting in amongst the McLarens. That it's going to be within a couple of seconds or something like that. There is going to be very, very important regulation about who is going to be challenging the other. It probably is going to be, yet again, a case of 2 or 3 seconds between them and a massive fight back between them doing alternate strategies. I do not expect them to be doing the same one, especially considering that McLaren are looking mighty by now in the pit stops. I believe they've taken the fastest pit stop record from Ferrari. I think by maybe 600ths or so. That is going to matter a lot. And I do think that is going to be a case of who is going to be a distant third place, other than Lando Norris in first place, and then Oscar Piastri right behind him in second place. And it's not like he's been able to not respond to Lando in any way at all. Absolutely, he's been right there behind him. Silverstone, you could say, was Oscar's to be had, but then he lost it with that misjudgment with the safety car restart and whatnot. But even then, he has been able to catch up right to Norris, or keep him behind him at Spa, since Spa-Francorchamps is now Oscar Piastri's turf, plain and simple. But at Zandvoort last year, I'm not gonna lie, he really did struggle. He qualified third, he fell back, and he really struggled to try and get right back up there again. Dirty air was one of his biggest nemesis around the Dutch circuit. There have been moments where he does have to do a bit of a desperate move, and I'm not sure whether or not McLaren will even allow them to do that. They'll be thinking about the championship. McLaren's push to maybe get 1,000 points in the constructors. There are a lot of goals and accolades that McLaren could have this year, and they don't want their drivers spoiling it, even though papaya rules exist. But I do think Oscar will be wise to try and keep his head. I do think he will keep calm. There is no way on this earth that Piastri's going to get rattled by the likes of Lando. He will just have to make do with what he's got and then just trust in his engineers and he coming up with a strategy beforehand and then being able to adapt to it. But make no mistake, this head-to-head that we've seen is getting really intense now, in the fact that nothing really major has happened. The big breakout moment has not occurred, even though we all thought Montreal was going to be that. They've managed it really, really well, but there's only a matter of time. We've got Monza next week. We've got this week. Oh, turn 1 at Monza. Okay, if it's the front row as well, but I do think it's going to be a front row this time around. It's going to be up to Oscar to jump Lando at the start. It is going to, again, be close. And then in third place, it's never a casual pick. Max Verstappen at Zandvoort, his home track, winning 3 years in a row. Second place last year to Lando, albeit a very, very big distance behind him, over 20 seconds, I think nearly 23. To say that Max Verstappen won't be on the podium at this circuit would be a fool's errand. I do think that he is able to rise above it, especially with a few weeks away. Red Bull can try and get down and dirty, maybe try and get some good work on the Friday to try and ensure that at least if Max Verstappen's not going to be winning his 5th world title this year, he can at least have a shot at doing well at his home race, especially since there are not going to be that many more coming around. It's this year and then next year and then that's it for a long time or ever. But Max still remains one of those drivers who does have the capacity as a driver to be able to punish the McLaren should they end up with either a mistake, they get a penalty, or there's a mechanical malady. I do think Verstappen will be right there to pounce. It's going to take a lot to try and overcome a McLaren if it's on its heyday and it's really, really singing, but I just can't throw Max out right now, especially at this track. And also, if the rain does happen, that wet, dry Verstappen talent, that potential could be something where we do see it. And we didn't really see that around Silverstone, but they probably got lots and lots of data to try and ensure that Verstappen has a better time of it than he did by just, relying on having a really, really skinny rear wing in qualifying and then having absolutely nothing in the wet. I mean, I don't think any driver will be able to deal with that. Yeah. A little bit more on the rear wing, please. And also, if Red Bull can nail the strategy, they might force McLaren's hand into doing something bold in the pit stop and there might be a mistake. It really depends on what Red Bull's been able to do over the summer. And I also think about that as well with George Russell, who will, I think, be 4th place, not that far behind the likes of Max Verstappen, and he too has had a good summer, really reflecting on this being definitely his best ever season in Formula One. Sure, it's only translated into one win, but he's had plenty of podiums. He's also been able to really demonstrate that he can lead Mercedes quite effectively and competently. Yes, the W16 has proven to really go off the rails, but the work they've been able to do to try and rejig things, to go back that little bit, has benefited in some way, shape or form, with a couple of cheeky podiums. And we're also going into an event where it's not going to be particularly warm. In some cases, it could be downright nippy, around like 17 degrees or something. That is really, really advantageous for Mercedes and the W16. Even though, again, Silverstone didn't really convert into expectations. But I do think that what they have been able to do by going back to the older rear suspension spec has done wonders for both he and Kimi Antonelli. I'll get to him in a moment. Yes, the car does give their team confused headaches, but when it does sing in these conditions, I do think it has the capacity to do well. I do think that George can be in the shout of maybe chasing Max for the podium, but I just think Verstappen's guile around the circuit might be just that little bit too great for Russell or Toto to be able to overcome. But this is a cooler track. We do have softer compounds. We also have a driver who really loves these conditions. The C3 is going to be the medium tyre instead of the soft tyre this time around. And the Mercedes does love the C3 tyre. George is adaptable. He can make the tyres last. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to do a cheeky one-stop Russell and maybe find a way past Verstappen in that way, being able to just nurture the tyres. Oh, and let's not forget, Russell is a beast at start. So if he is able to really get off the line quickly and not only get past Verstappen, but trouble either Norris and Piastri for second place or even first, that could see him complicate things, which will maybe give us a little bit more peril. And if it's going to be a McLaren 1-2, hey, I don't mind a little bit of peril for the first 10 laps or so. Yeah, before the first stops. And then in 5th place, I've touched upon it a couple of times before now, I think this is going to be the race, the first one after the summer break, where Kimi Antonelli actually sees a return to form and get some more points on the board and maybe get some distance between he and Alex Albon for the title of best of the rest, because he is getting very close in that regard. Yes, it might be a slightly frisky call to you, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to be very important soul-searching, just analysing, getting away from it all for Antonelli. And you got to remember, he's only just turned 19 years old. He has still got a lot to offer. There are other rookies who have been able to impress, maybe even more so than Kimi, in their respective machinery. But Antonelli has not disgraced himself at all. And I do expect him to be able to bounce back hard once the car comes back to him and he gets to tracks which are a little bit more familiar to him. Monza, I think he'll be wanting to correct the mistake for what happened in FP1 last year. Zandvoort, I think it could be easily an opportunity for Mercedes to try something to help Antonelli. I think Russell will be doing really well too. But it all really depends on what Antonelli is able to do in Q3, in actually getting there. Because he has had some trouble in qualifying relatively low, not getting the timings right, having a little bit of a mistake, and a couple of tenths can easily see you out of qualifying. So it is a really, really critical moment. He is going to have to convert that into one of the first 3 rows or something to remain a P5 contender. Just get out there and survive. And if it does go wet, then I do suspect Antonelli to do well. Yes, of course, we had Silverstone when he and Hadjar had a bit of an argy-bargy and he didn't really do well there. But I still remember Melbourne. I still stand by it. P4 on debut in terrible climate. That was so great, especially since it doesn't rain in Melbourne for the Grand Prix. I don't think it ever has done, or if it has, I don't remember it. And having that little data and Kimi survives it anyway. Also, when Kimi can qualify well and he is in amongst the elite, he does not disgrace himself. I just still go back to Canada and marvel at he and Verstappen going toe-to-toe, Antonelli having the brain bandwidth to look at what's happening with Norris Norris and Piastri and deduce which one is the more likely one he can actually get past. Or that is really, really textbook stuff in terms of having a good brain underneath that young body. So yes, I do think that he is going to do the business here and get some more points to his name, especially since Hungary did get an A point. It may have just been P10, but it was something. Small potatoes, but potatoes to have. I think he could rebound and maybe get in with a shout of the top 5. He might head back in the right direction. And speaking of the right direction, I would like to direct you now to maybe this video, which I think will tickle your fancy. As of now, I gotta go and get ready to watch In the Night Garden live with my little one, so don't worry, I'll be right back, okay? And I'm here to stay for the next few months, so don't worry about that.